All right, stock up. Texas A&M. It feels like a really good time to kind of deep dive into like where they are and who they are as a team at this point. So, they're off to its first 5-0 start in conference play since 1998 as members of the Big 12, which is kind of wild. It was the last time they won a conference championship there. But we had the game last week against LSU kind of circled, and I think we were looking at that as both teams who got off to a rough start, who started playing better football, and whoever won that game was going to be in really good position in the SEC. And that's exactly where we're at right now. And Mike Elko has done a phenomenal job with that team. Give me your thoughts. You are a big Elko fan, and you know the magnitude of that win from over the weekend.
Yeah, I do. But before I give you my thoughts, I want to get his thoughts. We had an epic post-game mic drop moment from Elko after the win over LSU.
I think it's the way we talk to the young people. I think the things that we talk about, the messaging, how we bring really good people into the building. We talk about doing things together. We talk about culture, and everyone talks about it, but then we go out and we live it every day. And I think we back up our actions. We're very honest. We're very open. And this is a real program. It's not fake. It's not a politician running this program, talking fast and BSing everybody. This is a real program. And for all the recruits out there, this is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football,
I think he says, like, come here at the end.
Yes.
But
yes.
First of all, he clarified later. He says that's not a shot at Jimbo Fisher, although he is literally the fastest talking college football coach that exists.
He's the fastest talking Southerner I've ever heard, too. The guy with the Southern accent can't trust a guy who talks fast with the Southern accent.
Yeah. So I've always said, like, they have transcriptionists at bowl games. And I've always said, do they just like put out their best ones when Jimbo Fisher is there? Because he talks so much faster than every other coach. But I actually thought that this could have been a shot also at Brian Kelly, who has a politician background.
Yes.
But ultimately, like, to me, this is basically what my reaction was to this game and really to this hire was they did just hire a football coach. Like, that's what Jimbo Fisher, he had all of this extra stuff where they talked a big game. When they hired him, they presented him with like a blank national championship trophy. And they're like, we're going to pencil this in with however many national titles you win us. Listen, they just went out and hired a good football coach, really cerebral, really smart, unconventional path to getting to be a head football coach. And they hired someone who's familiar with A&M because Elko was the DC here under Jimbo Fisher. So he understood the landscape. But he's a normal dude, blue collar dude. That's the way that they want to run the football, when they run a football program where you actually just focus on football. And I feel like that's what they needed. They needed a boring hire, not flashy, not glitz, not glamour. And that's what Elko has done. And I think that was what his message was here, that they're a real football program. That's what they are, that they can win games because they're tough physically, they're tough mentally. It's been a mix of guys that they brought in through the portal, guys that were already there. They lost a lot of dudes during the coaching change here, but it's just like a sound football team. As I was watching them play against LSU, I just kept thinking that this is the kind of game that they would lose under Jimbo Fisher. Like they would, those 8-4 teams, they would start out good in the beginning of the season, but then they would lose a game like that. Maybe they would even have a lead early in the game and then they would just blow it and they would self-destruct and then they wouldn't be able to do anything offensively. Obviously, Marcel Reed is electric and he was able to help change the game here. But it just felt like this was a team that just always believed that they could come back, that they always believed that they can win. And now they're the last team in the SEC without a conference loss.
That's the wildest thing I think there is. A&M is like in control in that conference. And I felt like they would be better, but I didn't think that we'd be talking about them being in control over teams like Texas or Georgia or Alabama or even like Ole Miss or Missouri coming into the year. Like probably would have been more in that conversation. I love everything you said about Elko, and you're much more familiar with him than I am, just on like a personality and like path standpoint. But like obviously, having followed what he's done, you could tell that he's a guy who can build and who can motivate and who can develop. You don't take a program like Duke and have them playing the type of football that they were playing if you don't know how to coach ball. And the biggest thing for A&M is they are well-resourced. They are very well-resourced. They have a bought-in fan base that has just a phenomenal crowd. And now you can give them football that is like some of the best in the SEC. It's dangerous. Like, that's a really dangerous thing to continue to build out there.
Yeah, and to the point about Duke, I spent time with him when he first got the job. Did not know that they were going to turn things around so much and win 9 games in the first season when he was there after what he inherited. But what I learned about him was that he'd coached like in the Northeast. He went to the Ivy League, took the job at Duke. Like, he had mostly spent most of his career at places where he was never the one coaching the most talented team in his conference. He was always trying to do more with less. And he's a really cerebral guy. So he was constantly looking at analytics and different ways to have advantages and which ways to attack different things from like the most educational or experienced numerical analytical reasons to do it. And so I think that like now you're putting him in a situation where he does have access to like unlimited resources, and they should be able to get, again, a top recruiting class, which they're on pace for, by the way, like obviously a top 10 class. It's like unleashing something that he's never had and that A&M has never had because they have been distracted by swag copters and, whatever, not substance, these last few coaches. So I'm actually really interested to see what this looks like, where he has that talent in addition to all of the other little things that he's always focused on with that attention to detail. So A&M absolutely on the upswing. And Joshua, we are possibly staring down the wildest possible return to the Texas and Texas A&M rivalry. It's been over a decade since these teams have met. They could meet as both one-loss teams Thanksgiving weekend, where honestly they might both be playing in the playoff, but like there would be so much at stake of like who's playing for an SEC title, and then seeding and all sorts of positioning for the CFP. Like everything could be at stake with the return of this rival.
And people who are fans of those teams, historically, they really care about that game anyway. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, please, I pray to the football gods, let it happen.